Hello, I'm Ben. Welcome to the channel. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the difference a leader makes, or beyond that, a leader should fit their organization. And we'll talk about what that looks like. I've talked about toxic leadership in the past. One of the biggest struggles I see when I go into organizations, doesn't matter if it's a sole proprietorship with just 7 to 10 employees, or if it's a major organization with 75,000 teammates. There's different situations, but specifically overall, leaders are the difference in whether a team is successful or not. Okay, and I'm not talking about managers, I'm talking about leaders. Managers are over process and things, and leaders are over people specifically, and engagement with those people and building a team that works together. And one of the things I'll say about this, when you're reading leadership books, look for something that has good diversity of thought. And I think the best author in that area right now is probably John C. Maxwell, but there's other great books that have come out. And this one is The Extraordinary Leader, and this is John Zenger and Joseph Folkman, and I'll show you what that looks like there. They have some pretty good stuff in this book. And as you see from the thumbnail, we're talking about toxicity versus effectiveness. And one of the things that this book calls out is a leader must fit their organization. And they talk about the COP model, which it takes into consideration what the leader is built of. Okay, so it talks about competencies, the skills, behaviors, and ability that a person does extremely well. Then it talks about organizational needs, which may be specific down to production, mentality, psychological safety, whatever it may be. There's things that organizations do well, and there's things that they have that are bigger challenges. And as a consultant, you go in and you try to attack the biggest challenge first, because that will have the biggest ROI when it comes to the bottom line. Which ROI is not talking specifically about dollar amounts, but it's talking about it could even be the impact it has on the team, retention rates, etc. So there's other things that come from that just in the specific team. And of course, the P in that COP model is passion. So it talks about leaders need to be in a role where they say things like, I love to do this, I want to do this, this gives me a high personal response where I feel better about myself, etc. And so in this, as a leader, you want to be effective. You don't want to be toxic. You want to be supporting. You don't want to be micromanaging. We'll run through some of those things here in just a second. But I'll say, here's the questions you want to ask yourself if you're looking at a position and if you're determining if a company is right for you. So we're going to ask, first off, what do I really enjoy doing? Second, what events bring me a great deal of personal satisfaction? Third is, which activities energize me in such a way that they hold my interest? Fourth is, when do I lose all sense of time? And fifth is, what activities do I daydream about or imagine myself doing? So going back to that statement, what makes me lose all sense of time? The thought process there should be, if you do something specifically where you lose track of time or your day flies by, that's something you want to consider, because if that's something you enjoy that much, imagine getting paid to do that for the rest of your life, and time flies by because you feel fulfilled and you're excited about what you do. So another thing around doing this, if people are in a right position, or if you as a leader are in a right position, or a sweet spot, as they say in this, what happens is there's things that come from that impact the organization. So basically, you add more value to your colleagues than others do because you're enjoying what you're doing. You're ranked as a high performer because you're enjoying what you're doing and you're dedicated to that. Generally, you'll work more hours per week because the time flies by. You're not looking for another job. You're not looking to put your skills elsewhere. You're more engaged and motivated, and you're learning and currently and consistently developing new skills because you're engaged around this and you enjoy it. So that book, once again, this is the 4th or 5th edition, so it's completely revised and expanded, but that is The Extraordinary Leader. Right there is what that looks like. Pretty good reference. And if you look at the thumbnail on the video, it talks about the difference a leader make. It talks about a toxic leader where they micromanage their team's every move. I've talked about that before with examples. An effective leader, on the other hand, hires the right people and then trusts those people to manage their work on their own. The toxic leader creates a culture of fear and basically where you can't trust anyone. There's no psychological safety. An effective leader creates a culture of respect. A toxic leader monitors the minutes you work. An effective leader focuses on results, not hours. A toxic leader criticizes you in front of others. A effective leader gives constructive feedback privately and respectfully. And I've said in the past, the only time a leader should do anything in front of others is if it's egregious or a danger. If it's going to endanger yourself or others, they should shut you down in front of that. But outside of that, everything should be outside done privately and respectfully. Toxic leader plays favorites and engages in office politics. It's hideous. I've seen great teams be torn apart by somebody who specifically wasn't trying to do anything other than tear apart those teams. An effective leader treats everyone fairly and focuses on teamwork, building the team. That's what I try to do. I want a quiver, like you say, a quiver of arrows, like a bow and arrow. You want, or like a magazine and a gun. You want the best components within that quiver, within that magazine, so your team is the most powerful team they can be. I've seen organizations go through, you'll have locations where people have built specifically good teams that are relevant to the challenges that the company is facing, and just they were so beaten down with things of little importance that kept trying to separate this team. They were never able to focus and engage and be as effective as they could be. So sometimes it seems like it's done on purpose. But ultimately, a good, effective leader should be able to treat everyone fairly, focus on the teamwork, build the schedule around the teamwork, and remove obstacles. That's the key as a leader, is you're removing obstacles. You don't become one, you remove what's in your team's way. Toxic leader will expect you to follow orders without question. A toxic leader will consistently interrupt you, they take credit for other people's work, and they hold back your career growth because of diminutive things. Even though if they knew you were up against greater obstacles and you were still able to do that successfully, they'll still get in that way. An effective leader encourages your questions and your feedback. They know that it's their job to continue in your improvement and development, so encouraging questions and giving that proper feedback, it matters. They listen effectively, actively, and respect your input. When you don't have that, boy, it makes it a difficult time. But a good, effective leader listens, actively, and respects your input. They give credit where it's due and supports and invests in your growth. So this is just another short video on leadership. I think it's impactful. These things are, if you are a leader, if you're looking for a role as a leader, these things are something you want to pay attention to, because in the end of the day, if you're going to be able to sustain a career somewhere, it's awful that sometimes people end careers at companies because of toxicity. I've had to do that in the past myself, and it was a very well-paying position. It takes a while to recover from that sometimes, and it can impact your life outside of work. So if you are in a leadership role, or if you want to get in a leadership role, look at that effective leader side. Make sure that's how you act and that's what you're trying to do. Understand that in some situations you'll be doing that for your team, but you'll have a toxic leader situation yourself. So you don't want to emulate the bad if it's above you. You want to replicate what is good and have your team emulate you in what is good so they can better support their teams. And if you do that, you'll see that your turnover is reduced. You'll see that you'll be able to sustain better teammates that are engaged and empowered because they know they're in a place where they're appreciated and it's safe to do all that. So if this is subject matter that you like and things of this nature is something that you enjoy, please like and subscribe. There's that reference book one more time for you. I'm Ben. Be good.